Yeah. Yeah. What's better than tripping is falling in love. What's better than Letterman, Leno Fallon, and all the above? What's better than popping bottles, trying to ball in a club? Is the first caveman pops with his son ball in a club. What's better than paper is ball in the dark. What's better than followers is actually falling in love. What's better than frolicking, follies falling in mud, rolling in green pastures, wandering, following love. What's better than eating is feeding your fam. What's better than meetings is missing meetings to meet with your fam. What's better than leaning and eating the Zen is hitting your Zen, dreaming a dream could mean leaving the land. What's better than yelling is hollering love. What's better than rhymes, nickels, dimes, and dollars and dubs is dialing up your darling just for calling her up. It ain't nothing better than falling in love. I seen it come back and forth. You hit the nail right on top of the head. I know you've seen it all before, but when it looks you in the eyes, it ain't nothing you can say, but that's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. Say that's love. Oh, that's love. 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 Say that's love. Ooh, that's love. That's love. That's love. That's love. That's love.
Little Big Podcast, number 5, part 2 of a 2-part total series about love. Did you like that first part? I'll tell you what I liked. I liked that I was able to talk for about 10 minutes without mentioning my dick once. That's progress. That's progress. So the intro music for the part 1 is a track that's very near and dear to me. It comes from the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, which a lot of you may not know what Final Fantasy VII is. I'm going to nerd out on you for a little bit. It's a video game. It's actually the first video game I ever played as a kid. Me and my brother got a PlayStation when we were, I don't know, I was probably like 9, 10, whatever. And it was the first game we played. And it's funny because I still play that game to this day on and off, but the music for it I still listen to all the time. And it's funny because the music and there's a couple of love stories that take place in the game. Have just the game itself, the things that happen in it have been defining my life even now. And I still draw a lot from the music. So the track that's on there, I edited it, I changed it, I fucked around with it, but it's become my love theme. It has been for years. When I think about love, when I think about being fond of someone, that's the music that plays in my head. And then the outro track, which may or may not have come from the City of Angels soundtrack. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. If you don't know what City of Angels is, it's probably the best Nick Cage movie back when Nick Cage movies were good. Nick Cage and Meg Ryan. It's from the 90s. It's a 90s tearjerker. I'm not going to say that I watched that movie and cry, but I just did. No, it's a great movie, though. One that I am actually very embarrassed to love. But the music is so much. By the way, if you liked either of those tracks, and if you like any of the tracks that you hear on my podcast, they are available on my website, the home of the podcast website, which is biggestlittlepodcast.com. Whether you're listening to this on YouTube or Vimeo or anywhere else where I find I can throw my shit at. But You won't find everything on there because some of the music I use isn't my own. The stuff that you will find on there is stuff that I have tinkered with or I have recorded myself originally. Yeah, and I think they're available for download. If not, you can at least play them from the website very easily. So this is the second part. I wanted to split it up because the first part was obviously about someone. So I wanted to separate between romantic love and how I feel about someone specifically. I wanted to separate that from just the love part in general. It was a little bit of a monologue. Oh, I got a text. But, and no, I know I didn't say who it was, and you don't need to know who it's about. That's not relevant. All that matters is how I feel about them. That's the point. Take notes, because there's no bullshit there. This is a new thing for me. Love. I thought I knew something about it until I ended up feeling it for real for the first time. And yet, I've had girlfriends in the past. I've had friends in the past. I've had people that I've loved in the past, and I do love those people. I have loved those people, but, as you get older, you get a little deeper. You learn more. You have more experiences, and you hurt more. You've suffered more, and when you suffer more, you love more. You're capable of loving more. So, to put it simply, the longer you are alive, the more you're going to have suffered, and conversely, the more you're going to be capable of loving. That's the way that I seem to be going about it anyways. And over the last couple of months, I've had a sort of breakthrough. And I touched base on this a bit in podcast number 2 with Michelle towards the end. So if you didn't listen to that, go listen to it now. But what's happened with me is that maybe between the ages of, basically since I started being romantically involved. And by romantically involved, I mean I got a girlfriend. Yay, I got a girlfriend. And that started for me around 16 or 17. And it goes without saying that basically everything between 16 and 22, 23, which is the sum of all of my relationships, has just been horseshit. I'm not saying that there weren't good times. I'm not saying that there weren't good people, but you're just young and dumb and confused, and just you're playing with real feelings and real emotions between people without even really understanding what it is that you're doing. And I don't know, maybe some people at those younger ages are capable of doing something real, but not me. I was just a dummy. I was just a kid. And I'm just a little bit less of a kid now, if we're being honest. Just a little. I'm less enough of a kid now to know that I'm still a kid. Just not as much of a kid. And I'm cool with it. I'm fine with it. So I just stopped with relationships altogether at 23. I want to say 23, and I'm 26 now. Actually, I will be 27 in a couple months, maybe like 2 or 3 months. So I stopped, and this happened shortly after I started living on my own. Maybe within a couple of months, / within a year of me living on my own, I had my last relationship, which maybe lasted for about 8 months-ish, and then I stopped. And because they were all dysfunctional in some way. And every relationship I've had, at the end of it, I always have this period of time where introspect and reflect, and I think, that was wrong, and that was wrong, and I did that wrong, and she did that wrong, and really we just did that wrong. And every single time I think, I won't do that thing again. I won't do that thing again. And then eventually, years later, it got to the point where at the end of the last one, I thought, well, maybe just relationships for me are just wrong right now. It's just not. Maybe the thing that I'm doing wrong is that I am always trying to be in one. Maybe that's the issue. And then like a light switch flipped. I think, oh, well, maybe I just need to learn to not need to be in one. Oh my God, he said it. And that might sound obvious as I'm saying it right now, but you have to understand, and I only understand this because I've been this person before. There are a lot of people, and we're not talking about any specific demographic or gender. We're not talking about anything specific. It's just about people in general. I am just talking about people in general. Lots of people don't want to be alone. And why not? I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it? It's terrifying to go about life without someone to come home, to know that you're to choose to come home to an empty house. And, I've been doing that for roughly 2 or 3 years, and it's, I'm not saying it's pleasant, but sometimes you have to be alone to figure some shit out. Who was it? Oscar Wilde, I believe, said something along the lines of, it's good to be alone. It's good to spend time by yourself and not be defined by another person. And that's what it is. And that's a whole podcast in itself. Defining yourself. What do you define yourself with or by? It could be anything. It could be the shoes that you wear. It could be the music that you listen to. But in this case, we're going to talk about defining yourself with your relationship, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your lover, your lovers, or even like people will define themselves. I've done all this too. I've done all of this. Define yourself by the person that you want. You don't even have that person, but you want that person. You think about that person all the time. You wish you could be with that person. And whether you realize it or not, you're defining your existence by that. And it's not even the person necessarily that you're defining yourself. You're defining yourself by your want of that person. And none of that's love. None of that's love. You might fall in love with the feelings that you have with that person or your girlfriend. It might be a great source of comfort and complacency, but that's not love. So I stopped. Excuse me, let me light my pipe. It's time to talk. I am probably destroying my mic right now because I'm always smoking in front of it. I'm kind of hoping that it's going to give it like a nice, cool, gritty tone to it, but in reality, it's probably just gunking it up. It's going to ruin it within a month. Anyways, so all those things I just described to you about infatuations and becoming enamored with people, I've done all of that. Done it all. And I decided to stop because I realized that for between the ages of 16 to 23, so what is that? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 7, 8 years, I had been constantly needing to be with someone. So even if I wasn't with someone, I wasn't technically single. I may have been single, like in terms of a Facebook, status, but my mind was on the hunt for the next person. And even if I spent months like that only makes it worse. And then you eventually just end up settling for someone because you're just thinking, yeah, I've just been alone for so long. I just don't want to be alone anymore. They're pretty, and they don't have a needle in their arm, so looks good. Let's go with it. And then, like with any relationship that you jump into, there's the honeymoon phase where everything's awesome and you're having tons of sex and everything's just, oh, it's so good. Honeymoons are so good. And then right around 4 or 5 months, all right, we're both complex people with unresolved emotional issues and complexes, and now it's all coming at the forefront and we're not having sex anymore. This sucks. So I lost my train of thought. So I stopped doing all of that. And I don't, even if I could explain what it's like to go about life purposely avoiding relationships and just staying single and just focusing on your life, even if I could somehow put into words what that's like, I would never do it because it's fucking depressing. It's not entertaining to talk about. So I'll just summarize it by saying that it sucks, but it's necessary. It's necessary. It's necessary to go home after work and you're fucking tired and you're hungry, so you picked up food for one person. You picked up enough food for one person, and you can't ignore the fact that you have enough food for one person because only one person is eating. It sucks. Especially when you're somebody who likes to cook food for you. I like to cook food for my my special other person, and even now to this day, like I hardly cook any good real meals because it's just me. And even though I should, why not do that for myself? I won't because it's just me. So I'll get a fucking, screaming Sicilian pizza and get fat. And really that pizza's enough for 3 people and I eat the whole goddamn thing because I'm lonely. No, I will though. I'll eat the whole pizza and then let the food coma whisk me away to sleep. But so you go home alone with your pizza, and I don't know, maybe you had a hard day at work, or maybe you got a phone call from someone, or a friend is made you mad, whatever. Something's wrong, and if you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you would go home to them, and maybe you would dump onto them, and they would talk to you, and they would rub your head, scratch your head, and make everything better. Or maybe you wouldn't dump on them, and you would just use them as a means to be comfortable and get over it, and all that's great, right? But how many times have you, I don't know, how do I phrase this? There's nothing wrong with having someone to take care of you, but it's kind of like the whole metaphor of the butterfly, the caterpillar, and the cocoon, and you can't help it, get out of it, or it's gonna fall off a cliff. And again, I'm speaking for me. I can't speak for you. Everyone's different, whatever. But in my time spent in forced single isolation, I learned how to deal with my own shit, my own problems, my own emotional turmoil, from the serious shit to from the childhood, traumas, to the everyday shit. Like, I fucking stubbed my toe at work and it still fucking hurts and it fucking sucks. All of those things, I've learned how to deal with it on my own. And I think that's important to be able to do. You don't have to deal with everything on your own, but I think it's necessary to be able to not, when something's wrong, to not immediately think, I need so-and-so for me to feel better. It's okay to be like, oh, I can't wait for so-and-so to make things better, but not to expect it. I think you should expect yourself to pull yourself through anything. And if there's someone else there that's willing to help you through that, or even just be there, whoa, man, that is awesome. That is. But I think it's absolutely crucial to cultivate the habit of independence. It is a habit. It's a trait. I don't know if trait's the right word. It's a skill. And there's only one way to get it. There's only one way to strengthen it, and that's to be independent. Now that I am independent now, and really, I mean, I have been independent for the longest time, but only recently have I, I don't know, maybe fully realized how much inner strength I have. When I think about having a relationship now, which I do think about it now, which I guess says a lot. I'm not jumping for one, but I do think about it now. When I think about it now, I don't think about at all about having someone to take care of me. I only think about having someone to just exist with, to brush my teeth next to eat meals with, to enjoy good weather with, to watch a good movie with. Before, in my younger years, it would be more along the lines of someone to make things okay, and I think that's where I was wrong, and I don't think that's love. I don't think that's love at all. I think you can't really love someone until you know how to love yourself, and I think part of loving yourself is being able to take care of yourself, having the fortitude to handle your own shit. This isn't like super complicated stuff I'm talking about. It's not. It's very simple, but it is very hard to do for some people. It was hard for me, but now it's not hard anymore. Now it's life. I forced myself into a sink or swim situation, and I sank. A lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh no, I'm either going to sink or swim. Well, you can do both. You can do both. The funny thing about rock bottom, whatever rock bottom you're on, put in whatever context you want, is that no one ever talks about, they only talk about the bottom. Okay, you hit it, and now you climb up, you just start climbing up, right? No, you can spend a while at rock bottom. You can chill there for quite a bit. You can even, if you really fucked up, you can even kind of smush your face into the floor a little more. So, rock bottom, it's a place where you can stay. So, it sucks to choose to be alone, but what you eventually learn from that is that there's ways to not be alone that don't involve you getting a girlfriend. It doesn't involve you being with someone. That's when you start to appreciate friends. You start to appreciate family. You start to appreciate just company. How many people do you know are in a relationship and they don't see anyone? They only see each other. All of their time is spent together. How unhealthy is that? I mean, your girlfriend or your boyfriend, they're not the most amazing people in your life. They may be very special to you, but they're just people. The fact that they sleep in bed with you or that you stick your penis inside of them doesn't make them this spectacular being that's now magically more interesting and more intelligent and more aware than anyone else that you know. They're just people. So really what you're doing is you're spending all of your time with the same person, and until you realize that person is just a person, then all of a sudden, oh, I'm bored with them? How selfish is that? How selfish is that? But how many people do you know that do that? and they don't see anyone else. They're not appreciating life. They're not appreciating people. They're not really living because they're living within the confines of their relationship. And that's not healthy. This is all the same shit I've done before. This is why I stopped. And again, I'm condensing these things that I've learned and come to appreciate. This happened over time, years. I don't know if somebody said this before or some, super wise person. I heard it from a friend, and it's never left me ever since I heard it from him. But he said that the path to enlightenment is a very lonely one. And I don't know if it always is, but in my case it was. And for me, that was necessary. So, I keep talking about what love isn't. And I ended up going on a huge tangent about my past with relationships and things like that, which I actually didn't even plan on, but I totally squeezed out a solid 20-something minutes. So that's cool. So, all right then. Love. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Yeah, I got you. No. It's not jealousy. It's not insecurity. It's not infatuation. It's not lust. It's not obsession. That's a big one for me, lust, but I'm not going to dive into that. My first real taste of love is, may seem kind of lackluster. It might not seem like the fairy tale that you're probably guessing that I could easily fabricate. No, it's not. My first taste of love came from a woman who I knew when she was a girl and I was just a boy. And shit, I have to go. I have a friend here. We're going to go get dinner. Oh, you know what? I would just re-record this when I'm back again, but I just want to leave you on a little cliffhanger for another 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm back. Sorry about that. So, it was a girl that I knew when we were both younger, not too young. I say girl and boy, and that makes you think like 8, 9, 10. No, we're talking about like teens-ish. But I've knew her throughout the years into my early 20s. And I mean, there's all kinds of backstory, but it's not really that important. What's important is that it was the first person that I romantically had a connection with, really had a connection with. And some things happened, some stuff that I still don't even quite understand, but she stopped talking to me. Not like you kind of drifted apart and then you just never know. Like she said that she didn't want to talk to me anymore. And, that sucked and all that. And that happened around when I had just started living on my own. So I was very much, I was by myself a lot. So I'm pretty sure I went through the stages of, what do they call that? The stages of mourning? I'm going to try and Google it right now. Oh, stages of grief. That's what it was. And let's see, what are there? 5 stages, 7 stages? There's denial and isolation. Well, that sounds about right. So I was definitely in denial that it was really happening, and I was isolated because I was just isolated by just the circumstances of my life. I didn't really get to see anyone because I had moved on the other side of town. I had just started riding my bike everywhere, and I haven't really talked about that, but I gave up my car, and I just started riding a bicycle everywhere because I just didn't really want a car. I'll talk about that some other time. But I was living kind of further away from my group of friends, so I didn't get to see them that much. I was working a full-time job, and I was just, figuring out life on my own. So there's denial and isolation. And then, let's see, stage 2 is anger. So I definitely got angry about it. How can you just cut someone off and not talk to them anymore? And how can you do that to someone? When in reality, I've done that to plenty of people in my life. I've just never had it done to me by a person that I had cared that much about. And anger is, you get angry at them, you get angry at yourself, you get angry at anything. You try to rationalize why you could, and justify why you could be angry about anything that leads back to the core reason. And then stage 3 is bargaining, which, God, that's the more pathetic part of it. Because usually when you talk about the 5 stages of grief, they tend to apply that to people with a disease or some sort of illness, something chronic that they're most likely going to die from, or that's just going to irreparably change their life. But really, this applies to anything that's just really emotionally disastrous. So bargaining, that's when you just, if I did this, if I started being this person, maybe she would do talk to me again, or this or that, and you start making up all kinds of things, and you think that that's going to enact some sort of change, and at the time I definitely fooled myself into thinking that, when in reality you're just not talking anymore, and then that's just it. There's nothing else to it. And I know that sounds kind of sad, and it kind of is, but I mean, that's just the truth. So after bargaining is depression, and there's kind of like a blanket depression over the whole thing. Yes and no. I went through some like phases where I was like, no, I'm over it. I'm not going to be all caught up on somebody who won't talk to me anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And then it just, I don't know, anything happens and you end up folding back into, but what if I did this, and then you go back to anger. It's not necessarily this step, then that step, then that step. You can definitely take some steps backwards, or have one foot on one step and another foot kind of down on another one, and then you start doing the splits. So depression, I don't need to talk about depression. You know what depression is. Depression sucks. You're sad about it. A deep, pensive, lonely sadness. And then there's acceptance. And I'm pretty sure that speaks for itself, and we're talking about over the course of a year or two where I went through this. And once I finally got to the acceptance part, again, even once you're at acceptance, you can still kind of step back into the other things. But you do that, you step back, and then you accept it again, you step back, you accept it again. Every time you manage to accept it again, you accept it a little more. And then afterwards, you kind of eventually get to the point where you have just realized that this is depressing, this is sad, and I am a little angry about it, but, it is what it is. I hate saying that, it is what it is. I hate it when people say that, because a lot of people throw it around like, oh, I stubbed my toe. Someone walks up, looks at you like, no, quit bitching. It is what it is. Fuck you. I stubbed my toe. It hurts. Don't say that just because. Yes, everything is what it is. This microphone is what it is. I'm knocked my knuckle on the table, and that is what it is. No fucking shit. But someone doesn't talk to you anymore. Someone cuts you out of their life. And you have to live with that. It is what it is. So after all of this nonsense, something very strange started to happen. Once I was able to just get over the loss of a dear friend, a dear lover, I started to look retrospectively at my life when she was still in it, and my life after she was in it. And from the information, sorry if you're picking up some wind noise. It is a really windy day, and I have my window open, and I'm not going to close it because it feels really good. But anyways, I started to take what information I could about her life, because now we're a couple of years past the last time I even ever saw her or spoke to her. Based on that information, I started to just piece together everything about her that was good and right and wrong, and everything that was good and right and wrong about me at the time when we were both younger, and up until the point where we stopped communicating, and then it just became me from that point on. And I started to look at everything that I went through, all of those stages of grief in retrospect, and I started to appreciate the feelings that I still had for her that remained untainted by just the things that I wouldn't even say that she put me through. It was really I put myself through it, because when somebody cuts you out, yes, that was their choice, but anything you do after that point is, yes, it's because of them, but really, I mean, most of it is something that you did. You exacerbated that pain. And, that's just something that you have to do. You don't have to. I had to. There was no way that I was going to not do that. But I started to appreciate the good things that were always good and that never stopped being good. Yes, you don't talk anymore, but that doesn't mean that there weren't good things. And those things were still true. And I started to build upon that, and I started to appreciate that more and more. And that, to be able to do that, to keep that, well, I mean, that's what I think love is. That's a start. That was a start for me anyways, because I think love has to be unconditional. That's why if there's any jealousy, if there's any insecurity, like exorbitant amounts of it, that can't be love, because that means that there are conditions that have to be in place in order for you to be the kind of lover that you feel like you can be. So you listen, Susie Q, you need to stop doing this or talking to this person, because that you doing that is causing me to be jealous, and that jealousy is causing me to not be able to love you in the way that I feel like I can and should. Does that make any fucking sense? No, it doesn't, because that's not love. That's you trying to be comfortable. That's you trying to avoid your shortcomings and your emotional instability and try to just stay in this comfortable bubble of complacency and comfort. And that has nothing to do with love at all. So love has to be unconditional. And after I got over all of this grieving, what was left afterwards was what I believe to be unconditional love. And I had love for her, and no, I wasn't happy that she didn't talk to me, and I'm still not happy about it, but I don't dwell on that. And I try to just remember what was there. And that's really it. That might, I don't know, maybe somebody, whoever, one of you listening to this right now might be like, I don't know. That sounds like a pretty shitty deal. I'm not feeling that. I understand why you might think that. But, you don't always get what you want. You don't always get what you need. But that doesn't mean that there can't be something that you can take from that. That's what I took from it. So now within the last 4 or 5 months of my life to this point, we're just coming. I think spring just hit a couple weeks ago, right? So we're talking about the last couple months of winter for me. So what am I trying to say here? Someone new came into my life, and though I, to this point, at this point, I found it. I found that unconditional love for the person, that all that was in place. But I was still in the mindset that oh God, no more texts. This is very unprofessional. Okay, let's lock it down. These are the last couple winters. What the fuck am I saying? These are the last couple of months of winter, this last winter. And someone new came into my life, and I didn't realize that I was starting to have feelings for them, because as I said towards the end in podcast number 2 to Michelle, if you haven't listened to it, fucking listen to it. It is a good conversation. But I had spent years staying out of a relationship and just doing me, which was great, but I learned a lot. But what I didn't pay any attention to, if there was one thing that I paid zero attention to, it was the loneliness. Whenever it would creep up on me, I would just assume that I was just being weak, and that I just wanted to do. I was doing that thing that I would used to do at a younger age, where I would have to be with someone, have to have someone just to make things okay, all that bullshit. I thought I would just be doing that again, so I would just tuck it away and just be like, no, just suck it up. Man up, do your shit, go about your life, and just get past this. And that's what I would do. And a lot of it was definitely at the times where the loneliness was too hard to ignore, I would definitely get a healthy dose of sex, and I would just push it back down and just kind of mute it a little bit. And I wasn't paying attention to the fact that wasn't going away. I was treating symptoms. I was masking symptoms. I wasn't even treating it. I was masking symptoms and completely ignoring the actual infection. And when this person came into my life, I started to have feelings for them, and I didn't even realize it. I thought that they're very nice, they're very great, but why do they make me feel weird and fuzzy? I don't get it. And it's funny because I was fighting it while unconsciously letting it happen, because unconsciously I wanted it to happen. But at the same time I was fighting it, and that caused a whole lot of issues with me that I was just standing in my own way, and I didn't even realize it. And the more I was letting it happen, the more I was starting to become scared, and the more I would start to fight it. And that's madness. It's absolute madness. And what happened was I would so I ride my bike, right? And I ride it all seasons. I ride it through winter, summer, spring, fall, all of it. I've been doing that for like 3 years. I love it. But when I have some serious shit going on emotionally that I'm having a hard time understanding and dealing with, riding through winter can kind of turn into this melodramatic, cheesy metaphor for the cold isolation and loneliness of winter. And, you get what I'm saying. So I'd go to work. I'd do my thing. I'd wake up in the morning, and I'd be very good in the morning. I would stay productive, and by that I mean I would drink lots of coffee and then kind of do some shit. But once I would get off work and start my ride home, there would be nothing left except my thoughts for this person, and how I don't want to go home alone anymore. And like work was this awesome distraction. I could do the work that I do, but then the second I sat on that seat and started going home, it would just become this dreadful endeavor. And it started getting worse and worse every night, and I didn't realize that I was falling into a legitimate depression. And the climax of this was one night. It was kind of like sleety, very uncomfortable weather. It wasn't horribly cold, but it was sleety enough that you're cold because you're wet. Nothing I'm not used to, but I'm like, I usually ride in the street because I don't give a fuck, and that's the fastest way. But I was so like beaten down that I was just on the sidewalk because I wasn't even going very fast. I was just kind of cruising because I didn't have the will to really pedal very quickly. And all I'm doing is going home. I'm just going home, but I had music playing, and I wasn't even listening to it. Usually music is what helps me push through anything, and I couldn't even hear the music. I just couldn't shake this feeling of just isolation and loneliness, and I just stopped. I just hit the brakes. I just let the bike fall to the ground, and I just sat. I sat down on the sidewalk, and we're talking. I usually work. I work late, so we're talking about 10:30, 11:30 p.m. And I just sat there, and I wasn't really thinking about anything. I just simply didn't have the will to go on. And I am by no means suicidal. That never crosses my mind. But I kind of understood that feeling then at that point, to not have the will to go on. And in this case, go on means pushing my legs so that the bike goes forward so that I can get home. I didn't even want to go home. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. I just sat there. And then some kind of sappy love song came on. I think I had my entire iPod on random, and it was so I can't even remember what song it was, but I remember that the lyrics were so they were so accurate to the way that I was feeling that I realized how silly this was. I'm sitting on the fucking sidewalk. It's sleeting, and I'm just collecting water, and I ripped the headphones out, and I started laughing. Because what else are you going to do when you're sitting there at rock bottom? What else are you going to do? And I picked up the bike. I walked a little bit, blew some snot out of my nose, hopped on the bike, and I fucking went home. So from that point on, from that day on, it became a slow climb back up. And I started to accept that I was having feelings for someone, and that it was just happening. And in case you're wondering, yeah, that's the person that I was talking about in part 1. So I started to think about what happened with girl number 1 who doesn't talk to me anymore, and I realized that this is it. It's happening. I am feeling love for someone. There's someone worth loving. And even though I wasn't planning on it, it's happening. And what can you do but go with it? That doesn't mean put a ring on their finger. That doesn't mean make them your own. It just simply means feel the feelings that you're going to feel and let it happen. Accept it. Be aware of it. Take it where it's going to go, and just make sure it stays in a healthy place. And that's it. That's all you ever have to do with love. That's it. And that's really all that it is you find someone. First off, find yourself, which I condensed it to 2 words, find yourself. That's not very easy. Find yourself first. Find self-love first. Love yourself. How do you do that? Stop hating yourself. Stop being judgmental of yourself. Stop being excessively narcissistic. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Accept who you are, whatever it is that you are. You know, you like American cheese? I can't stand American cheese. I think it's the most fucking disgusting thing that they've ever put on Burger King tacos. Why does Burger King have tacos? I don't know. But if you like American cheese, then accept that. I think that's a poor example. I just really don't like American cheese. Accept yourself. You can't really love someone if you haven't accepted yourself yet. If you haven't really loved yourself yet. And once you love yourself, find someone that's worth loving. Ideally, someone that's found themselves or is finding themselves, is trying. Really, that's all that's important, is to try and find yourself, which I guess maybe I phrased it wrong. You never really find yourself. I think you're constantly finding yourself. You're finding yourself until you find your death. And then, well, that's it. Awesome. And once you find that person, love them unconditionally. And that means that you don't have any expectations from them. You don't need anything from them. Because anything that you need, you can provide for yourself. You have to be in that place. And it's okay to want things from them, but you can't be fucking bummed out if you don't get those things. There's nothing wrong with wanting things, but you can't need those wants. You have to be able to separate those two things and take what you can get. And if it's not enough for you, sometimes someone can't give you enough. Sometimes it's just not right. It just doesn't line up. You have to accept that and move on. Or lower your standards. I don't know. There's so many variables. Everyone's different. You can't pinpoint it. You can't lock that down. But the point I'm trying to make is love them for who they are. And they're not going to be perfect. And you're not perfect. Neither of you are going to be perfect. That's never going to happen. If you're waiting for that perfect person, you're fucked. You're done. Why are you waiting for perfection when you're not perfect yourself? How could you possibly expect to find someone that lines up with exactly what it is that you want when you're not exactly what you want? And how could you be? How could you be perfect? That just seems ridiculous. But how many people do that? How many people have this image in their head of this person? He needs to be like this and this and this. And I just need to wait for that right guy. Guess what? That's never going to happen. You might think you find someone like that, but then he might be the 5 things that you were looking for, but there's going to be a 6th thing that you don't like, and all of a sudden it's not going to be perfect, and you're going to just be fucked. So, love. Unconditionally. Did I drive that home enough? You know, here's a tip on how to love unconditionally. It's impossible to not judge someone. I don't care how much fucking yoga you do. I don't care how much drugs, or how many kinds of drugs you take. You're going to judge someone. You're going to even judge the person that you love. It happens, even if you're not trying to. So pay attention to what you're judging about them. And usually when you judge someone, it's a reflection of what you judge about yourself. So take that and write it down. So reflect on that. Find something that you don't like about your partner or a person that you love, and really think about it. And maybe if you thought about it long enough, you'd realize that maybe it's just something within you that you don't like. And maybe that thing that you don't like about them that you're judging, maybe you could actually like that. To take a flaw that you see in someone, and I'm not even talking about romantically, I'm talking about anyone. To take a flaw that you see in someone and love it, appreciate it, and try and understand how that flaw makes up the person that they are, how that flaw is the yang to the good yin about the things that you do like about them. That's how you love someone. It's not about finding the good things and holding on to the good things. It's about finding all of the things, taking all of the things and accepting it Whether you're doing this in yourself, or whether you're doing this in your mom, you're doing this in your lover, it doesn't matter. Anyone. So I know that this whole podcast has been kind of steeped in my romantic love. I'm using that as the example because that's how I've learned it. But I've taken, especially within the last months, I've taken this unconditional love that I felt for someone romantically, and I'm applying it everywhere. Because you can. It's easy. To strangers. When you come across somebody, when you come across a cashier at whatever fucking place you're at, and they're being shitty to you, or they just have a bad attitude, well, you know what? There's probably a reason for that. They're probably not a shitty person. Most people aren't shitty people. They're just having shitty days, shitty weeks, shitty months. They're having a shitty year, and they just haven't pulled it together yet. There's reasons for that. You're probably never going to know those reasons, but you don't need to. People are just people, and everyone is just trying to avoid pain. Whether that's stubbing your toe, or whether that's just emotional pain, discomfort, awkwardness. Everyone's trying to avoid that. We're all the same in that. And even the dopiest World of Warcraft pale boogers in his nose guy or girl, a lot of girl gamers now, who don't really go out into the world and like their introverted nature, even those people don't want to be alone. They want someone, maybe not to the same degree that I want someone, but everyone does. And if you can realize that, if you can walk around every single day, everyone you look at, and apply those facts of life and human nature to everyone that you come across, well, you might find it a little bit easier to, love them. You don't have to love everyone. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do for everyone, but you don't spread around your fear. That is the opposite of love. And I don't really think I'm getting too abstract with this. It's pretty straightforward. There's love and then there's fear. So when you walk up to that same cashier and they're being kind of shitty or just moody, and that causes you to pull yourself in because you're like, whoa, I don't like how this person's acting. I'm just going to swipe my card and go about my way. That's fear. And that's okay. It happens. No one likes to deal with that stuff. Like I said, everyone's avoiding pain or conflict or awkwardness. So no, you don't have to go to that cashier and be like, hey man, what's up? What's wrong? Do you want a hug? You don't have to do that. You fucking could. Why not? Why not? That might change that person's day. That might change that person's life. Do you know that you realize that there are some people that walk around for weeks on end without ever physically coming into contact with someone? Just with their job, their grind, their life, it just never happens. And their shoulders brush up against with somebody and it snaps in their brain, oh my God, that's the first time I've touched someone in weeks. There are normal people that walk around like that. So to offer a hug to someone, or even just take your hand out, extend your hand, grab their forearm gently and just give it a little squeeze and be like, hey, you okay? You don't have to suck their dick. You don't have to stick your tongue in their ear. But those are little things that you can do, and it's good training. Do it with a stranger. It's easier to do this kind of stuff with a stranger than with people that you know. I've experienced that firsthand. I have 3 roommates that I've been living with for, I think, 3 years now. And it's harder for me to connect with them on virtually any level than I do with strangers that I come across. And that's because they're closer to me, so it seems scarier to do that, when in reality, it's the opposite of that. It's the exact opposite. So, love, fear, all that stuff. Jedi shit. Love unconditionally. If you can't do it with other people, it's okay. Just start with yourself. That's the most important thing. Never mind all this stuff that I talked about, girls and not talking to me and finding love in people. Never mind all that. Love yourself. You can't figure out how? Stare in a mirror. Stare in a mirror. Sit down so you're comfortable. Get a mirror, maybe a big one, a nice tall one, and place it right in front of you. And if you're a narcissist like me, you're going to love it. But if you're a self-loathing narcissist like me, you're going to start to attack yourself. Especially women do this a lot too. Men do this a lot, but you won't hear about it. But women, they attack themselves the second they see themselves in the reflection. That's okay. That's your ego. That's your subconscious. All of your insecurities and complexes are pouring out because you're looking at yourself. You're seeing you for what you are because that is your reflection. That's you, but you're seeing past that. When you're looking into the mirror, you're not looking just at your face, your body. You're looking at everything within you that you can't stand or you can't deal with. So look at it. Stare at it. Look yourself in the eyes. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But do it. Do it. And do it for as long as you can, and then take a break, go jerk off, and do it again the next day. And you will, I guarantee it. I guarantee on everything. I swear on everything that you will learn something and you will change. You'll start to hear your brain. You'll start to hear how you attack yourself, and let it go. Easier said than done for sure, but pay attention to the negative and just start to grind that, squeeze it out into a positive. That's all you can do. That's all you have to do. Yeah. Start to love yourself. Okay. I think I've just about exhausted this shit. So, a couple of things in closing. So, this is podcast number 5, part 2 of number 5. And I haven't released anything yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I wanted to wait until I had them done and release them at once, so I had a nice little chunk of something for people to bite into before I started going live with this thing. So, I don't know where it's going to go from here. I'm definitely not stopping. Are you kidding me? We're just getting started in this bitch. We are so just getting started. And I have more things planned. I'm starting to get guests in line. So it's not just me talking all the time. I know you love my voice. I know you love my voice. But I'd like to have some other voices on here too. That being said, consider that an open sort of casting talent call. If you have anything interesting to talk about, if you're an interesting person, if you can shoot the shit and you're not camera shy, and by camera shy, I mean mic shy, although I will have some cameras soon, hopefully. This isn't always going to be an audio podcast. Definitely not. I definitely want to do video. I want to shoot things. I want to record bands. I want to do live music and record it, all kinds of stuff. But baby steps, my friends, baby steps. But if you are a person, you have something, you have a cool story, you have something, you can hang, let me know. Hit me up. By the time I release this, I'll have contact information up. There's going to be a Biggest Little podcast, Facebook, Twitter, all that bullshit. Wherever you find it, wherever you want to communicate, reach out. Talk to me. Let me know how you feel about it. Tell me what you think. If it's any good, we'll talk about it. I'll bring it up here. Talk about comments. Give me attention. I love attention. I live off attention. I actually have a separate stomach that only digests attention. I have this weird physiological miracle gift where I can take attention and convert it into caloric energy. I know, it's insane, right? I can do that though. So this podcast is sponsored by your mom and her sweet, sweet pussy. It's so good. Just kidding. No, this podcast is sponsored by no one because it hasn't even been released yet. None of them have been. But I wouldn't mind some sponsors. I think that'd be pretty sweet. How do you think about that? I could sell the fuck out of your product if I like it anyways. Because I like to make money. Why not? I like money. Money's great. But no sponsors yet. And don't worry, folks. If I ever do get any sponsors, we'll do it with some class and some humor. We won't be cramming things down your throat. And also, to wrap this up, a huge shout out to my main man, the engineer, the wizard of sound, Kevin Allen O'Neill. He's taken all 5 of these podcasts and he's fixed them, fixed the sound, worked his magic. I have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to this, but he is the grandmaster of it. And I'm sure he'll be on this thing at some point. You guys get to meet him. He's a badass motherfucker. And if you think it sounds great, that's half because my sexy voice, and the other half is because of him. So, many thanks to my friend, Mr. Kevin Allen O'Neill. So, there you go, folks. As soon as this thing is done, I'm going to send it off to him. He's going to fix it. He's going to send it back to me. And I'm going to start putting all this up and making it live. And I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited. This has been a long time coming for me. I've been thinking about this for a long time. And it's finally here. I'm finally doing it. And I'll talk about it some other time when I can formulate my thoughts better. I'm really hungry. I got to go eat. But it's really nice to be here. And it's really nice to have you here, too. I'm really glad you're listening to this. So,